The following podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Alone in the Realm, a premium solo TTRPG podcast. I'm DV, your humble GM and adventurer. Alone in the Realm is a podcast where we let the dice drive the story, and we are along for the ride. No characters beyond death, and we let the dice lay where they fall. We'll be playing Mothership by Tuesday Night Games, and the Mega Dungeon module, Gradient Descent, by Luke Gearing. Gradient Descent, Episode 11. Here is a reminder of our characters. Denzel McNally, 11 out of 11 hit points. Stress, 8. Bends, 17. Ada, Automated Droid Assistant, 7 out of 14 hit points. Wounds, 2 out of 3. Stress, 10. Bends, 22. Therese Montz, 12 out of 17 hit points. Wounds, 0. Stress, 5. Bends, 13. Ollie Kenworth, 11 out of 11 hit points, reduced from his normal max of 17. Wounds, 1 out of 2. Stress, 18. Bends, 10. In the last episode, the crew narrowly escaped from searching security androids. Ollie is severely wounded, Ada has a couple of bad wounds herself, and all of the crew are in a bad general condition. They need to leave the deep. Our chaos factor sits at 9. I'm going to go ahead and test the scene. I got a 7. That's an altered scene. I'm going to take a look at the scene adjustment table, which is a D10. I got a 2. Add a character. Okay. I'm going to roll on my character table, and I got Commander Rachel Kilroy from the Blockade. She's the leader of the troubleshooters. I'll try to find some way to get her added into this scene.
She was a cold, distant woman,
Ollie mumbled. What? Who? Denzel was distracted, peering into the intersection ahead and worrying about the missing spider-like hunter droid.
My mother,
Ollie continued. His eyes were closed and his head was laid back against the wall. The wound on his forehead had soaked the bandage with blood. Ada saw something clenched in his fist and knelt down beside him. She gently pried it from his fingers and saw it was a crumpled photo of a little girl standing with her parents in front of some monument. They were all smiling and happy. "Is this your family?" She paused. A knot suddenly formed in her artificial stomach. "Who is this?" she almost whispered. But somehow she knew it was her as a little girl, and those were her parents. She had a fleeting memory of the day this picture was taken. "Impossible," she whispered. She was manufactured, or wait. Ada, roll 1d10 bends. 10. She's now up to 32 bends. She dropped the picture and Ollie snatched it back.
I wish my family was happy like this one. My father was a whoremonger. She hated him, and later me.
"Where did you get that picture?" she hissed under her breath. Ollie finally opened his eyes.
You gave it to me.
He smiled groggily. I did no such thing, she retorted. He shrugged and dropped it on the ground. Ada avoided looking at it. In a bout of morbid curiosity, she snatched it up and placed it in her pouch. She grabbed him under his arm and hauled him to his feet. He is going to need help, and soon, she said aloud to Denzel. He glanced her way and nodded. Therese, see if you can get Arcady on the comms. He continued to look through the door for threats. Mythic fate check. Is Arcady still here for the other crew? 30 versus a 90. Yes. I'm going to roll on the character conversation tables from Mythic. Got glad and refuse.
Oh, so you still alive. I'm very glad. Others say you probably killed.
His voice crackled through the radio interference. We're still alive. Are you on the landing pad? Therese answered.
I just land. The others loading, so not be here for long. Get here and hurry, or I leave.
How long can you give us? The desperation in her voice was evident.
10 minutes,
was the staticky answer.
We'll be there.
She switched off her comms.
Arcady will wait for 10 minutes, and he's leaving with the other crew. We have to hurry.
Denzel nodded and pushed open the door. He sprinted the best he could in his vac suit down the hallway to the garbage-filled door that stood ajar. He looked into the smelly room and then waved them forward. Do we have an encounter? 75, no. Ada stumbled forward with Ollie under her arm next. They shambled up to Denzel, and he helped them to clamber onto the pile of garbage. Therese was covering their rear and following close behind, looking around desperately with her SMG raised. As she walked past the spiked intersection, the spikes suddenly shuddered, and she instinctively dove for the floor. Now I'll roll a speed check with disadvantage due to her vac suit for Therese. Got a 39. Good. And a 34. Great. Versus 44. She passed. Her feet slid past the spikes just as they closed over where she had been standing with a clang.
That tomb we found must hold an artifact. If we can believe the others about these spikes,
she gasped. Denzel stood in shock for a moment, then helped her to her feet. By whole earth, we've had an artifact all this time? He exclaimed. This place was truly bizarre and full of constant surprises. They too went ahead and crawled into the garbage-piled room. We'll check it out further when we get back to the bell. We have to hurry. Ada and Ollie were already standing near the bulkhead door leading out of the garbage room and into the long hallway out to the landing pad. I'm going to roll for another encounter. 65, no. Ada waited for the other two to catch up, then cranked open the door. The hallway beyond was blessedly empty. Clear, she stated, though there was an odd strain to her voice. Denzel avoided the topic for now, but he decided to speak to her later about what was going on with her. They were all under so much pressure, it was no wonder she was strained. They hurried down the passageway, and before they could open the door to the void of space, Therese cried out, "Wait!" She pointed to a tear in her suit from the steel wool gunshot she had suffered during the fight with the androids earlier. Damn it! Denzel started trying to remove his own suit. Here, take mine. I'll hide somewhere until you can come back and get me. What? Are you crazy? We don't have time for that. I can make a run for the ship. I can make it. She slapped his hand away from the fasteners on his suit. I can make it, she reiterated.
Fine.
He groaned after a moment. He didn't like this at all. They opened the door to the vacuum of the landing pad. The air rushed out of the hallway with a whoosh. There was the Acheron shuttle, squatting on the landing area with the gangway door opened. Therese, make a speed check with disadvantage due to her vac suit. She's going to make a run for the ship. There you go. Oh, 44, which is a fail. And I guess I didn't need to roll that second one, but it's a 59 versus a 44, which is also a fail. Oh boy, she is in trouble. Okay. They all sprinted the best they could in their various states of injury and in their vac suits. Ada helping Ollie along. Therese desperately tried to keep a hand over the tear in her suit as she ran. She made it about halfway to the shuttle, then began to falter. She ran out of air in her suit and could hold her breath for no longer. Her steps began to stall and she fell to the ground. Denzel saw her and picked her up under her arms, trying his best to drag her to the shuttle. Ada appeared next to him and picked up her feet. Together they carried her the remainder of the distance to the waiting shuttle. Ollie stumbled in behind them. The shuttle door closed with a hiss, keeping the void of space at bay at last. Now Therese has to make a body save to see if she died from a lack of oxygen. Okay. Here we go. Come on, Therese. If you roll the dice longer, you get better results. Everybody knows that. Ho 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 ho! 0-0 versus a 35, a critical success. I'm going to take 1 stress away from her. She's down to 4 stress now. Good job, Therese. But she still takes 1d10 damage. That is a 1. 1 damage. She's now down to 11 out of 17 hit points. Therese gave a sudden gasp as the much-needed air returned to her lungs. She looked up at Denzel and Ada and croaked, "Thanks." Grace interrupted.
Great! The butt sniffers are finally showing up. Can we get now?
Arcady chuckled and lifted the shuttle into the air. As the skids left the landing pad, a trio of security androids emerged from their waste collection hatch. They silently fired a few bursts from their SMGs, but the bullets pinged harmlessly from the shuttle at that range. "That was too close," Denzel breathed. "You bring lots trouble," Arcady mumbled. After they left the gravity of the station, Lillian floated back to where Ada sat. "You look like hell. I can take a look at those wounds on our ship. We have a special workshop for androids, and I'm a bit of an expert technician," she bragged, and winked at Ada. "What about Ollie? He is wounded much worse than I. Do you have a med pod he can use?" Ada ignored the wink. Mythic fate check. Do they have a med pod on their ship? I'm going to say very unlikely. It's practically a pirate ship. Alright, let's see what we got. 55 versus a 75. Yes, they do have it. And that's a random event. I'll roll a D10 for the random event. Ooh, a 3. A remote event. Okay. What does that mean? A remote event. Let's take a look at some meaning tables here. Break. And completion. Okay. I think this means that someone arrives from Hasmos to check in on our crew and make sure that they're making progress in their mission. Mythic fate check. Is the representative an android? That's a bad taste of Hasmos. 44 versus 90. Yes, of course. And it's another random event. Let's roll on the random event table. 4. Another remote event. Oh my gosh. Wow. What is happening? Okay. Let's roll some more meaning tables. Bargain. Okay. Bargain. And disadvantage. Okay. All right. Something's a brewing up here. I think I got what this means. I'm going to combine this with the other event and say that the android will offer to buy artifacts for super cheap from our characters. Our characters, of course, don't know the worth of their item unless they can study it. All right, back to the story.
We got one, but it'll cost you to use it.
Grace piped up. I'm sure Hasmos will recompense your costs to allow us to stay in the field, Denzel offered.
Corporate credit? I want something of worth. They would tie up payment for ages.
She used air quotes around payment. She leaned over to spit, then saw Arcady watching her from the corner of his eye. She swallowed loudly. Denzel considered the data chip that they had found and the artifact in their possession. He wanted to be able to look over both before offering something. We'll see what we can dig up, but it'll be something that's worth it, I assure you. It was all he could offer. She smirked at him and turned back around in her seat. The radio in the shuttle suddenly crackled to life.
Acheron, this is the Zhang Shui 4. Please respond.
Arcady looked displeased. That was the name of one of the blockade ships. This is Arcady on Acheron. What you want?
Do you have a passenger by the name of Denzel McNeely?
The voice inquired. Arcady turned to look at Denzel. The team lead just shrugged and said, McNelly. Arcady answered affirmatively, still looking at Denzel. There was a hint of something akin to impatience at all of these inconveniences.
He is to be brought on board the Zhang Shui 4 as soon as possible. No one else from your shuttle is to disembark, the voice ordered.
Oh, hell no,
Grace said loudly.
I want to go nowhere near those jarhead troubleshooters.
Arcady looked at her with impatience as well. I will come after docking at Bell. We have wounded needing attention. There was silence from the receiver. After a few moments, the voice resumed.
Very well. Do not tarry. Zhang Shui 4 out.
What is that about?
Therese asked. No idea, Denzel answered. He looked at Ada, but she was gazing at the photo she had taken from Ollie. The scientist was barely coherent and seemed to slip in and out of consciousness. Denzel thought he heard Ada mumble, "It cannot be." Ada, what is it? He thought she was referring to the summons. She glanced again at the photo and crammed it into her belt pouch. It is nothing. I am concerned for Ollie. The woman, Lillian, lightly touched Ada's shoulder. You should be concerned with yourself. Those are 2 nasty wounds you have there. Lillian actually sounded sincere. How much will it cost for my repair? Ada looked up at the self-proclaimed android technician. I'm sure we can come up with a deal, she replied smarmily, leaning across the seat with a sly smile. Denzel grimaced. Ada could take care of herself, though. He decided to stay out of it. As they neared the bell, Ada passed her personal terminal and the data chip they had found over to Denzel. I will accompany Lillian with Ollie onto their ship. Perhaps this will be of use to you. Denzel took the items and nodded. Arcady landed the ship and allowed the other passengers to exit. Therese hesitated in the doorway. You okay, boss? He waved to her with a slight smile, and she floated on into the bell. Denzel watched as she went toward their bunks in the tank. Ada assisted Ollie through the umbilical that was connected to Grace's ship. Grace saw Denzel watching, turned, and waggled her fingers at him. When he hesitantly waved back, she flipped him off. He closed the door to the shuttle, removing himself from Grace's repulsive presence. Now that they were alone, Arcady asked, "Do you know why they want you?" He piloted the shuttle back out of the bell. "No clue." Denzel worried at his lip with his toothy ridge. It was a few hours to the blockade ships, so Denzel spent that time trying to hack into the data chip they had found in the deep. Ada would have been more proficient, but he had plenty of time and his skills with computers were decent. Alright, so I'm going to roll a check here for Denzel to open the encrypted data chip. I'm going to give him advantage due to the extra time that he has in the shuttle. So I got 17. Okay, I don't need advantage. 17 versus 52, which is his intellect plus computers. That's a success. Technically, I probably should have just allowed him to succeed even without a test, but I wanted to give him a chance to fail. In the end, the decryption password was a simple variation of the word Cloudbank, with the A's replaced by an ampersand and the L replaced with a 1. Denzel shook his head. Whoever had created this chip had been careless amateurs. Stored on the chip were detailed dossiers on high-ranking officials within Cloudbank, which was now a subsidiary of Hasmos, though maybe not openly. Some of the details were very juicy stuff. He imagined a criminal would get decent extortion leverage money for this type of data. That wasn't something he was interested in, but perhaps someone like Grace would be. Maybe this would suffice as a payment. Ollie had looked in bad shape and he needed that med pod time. Denzel spent the rest of the trip trying to relax, and he read a little of the Whirlpool's Edge sci-fi novel he had found on the deep. I'm going to roll a rest sanity save with advantage because he's reading a book for stress relief. I got a 17, which is good enough, but see if I can get better. 90. No. Alright, so 17 versus 28, that's a success. I'm going to reduce my stress by the ones digit, so that's 7 stress relieved. So now he's back to his minimum of 2 stress. Mythic Fate Check. Does the novel mention any characters or events that might correspond with our party? This comes from our bins. 51 versus 90, yes. Alright, so it does. Denzel was reading the pulpy fiction, then dropped it in disbelief. It described a crew of 5 going to a forest preserve station and facing a killer there who collected hands. One of the crew was killed and another had her throat ripped out. What was this? Denzel. Roll for some additional bins. I got 1d10 is 7. 7 more bins, and he's now at 24 bins. Arcady interrupted his thoughts thankfully. We are here. The frigate, or troop ship, or whatever it was, loomed large and menacing in the shuttle's viewport. Arcady called in his docking intentions and expertly landed in an enclosed docking bay. There were a variety of other shuttles present there already, parked neatly in line. Denzel still wore his vac suit, and he walked with its bulk down the ramp of the shuttle into the large docking area. He breathed in deeply the ship's air. The shuttle air had been stale. Let's roll on the Mythic descriptor tables to see what we see in here. Anxiously. Ooh. And soft. Oh, okay. Interesting. What does that mean? Ah, I got it. A handful of crew members worked in the docking bay, darting anxious looks toward one of the manager's offices. An android emerged from the room wearing a high-ranking Hasmos security force uniform. Denzel was not up to speed on what its rank insignia indicated, but the crew all avoided eye contact. Of course, some of it might have been due to its android uncanniness. Let's roll on the Mythic character appearance tables. I got rustic and petite. The android was of an older model, not exactly human-like, with no hair and odd, plastic-looking skin and ears. And not just no hair on its scalp, the face was completely devoid of eyelashes or eyebrows as well. It spoke to Denzel in a neutral voice.
You must be Denzel. I am Captain Lara 4794 of the Hasmos Security Forces. We received communication from the Cloudbake production station that you and the other divers.
It said that word with contempt.
Were shooting security forces and causing station damage.
That's not completely false, but a bit twisted. We were fired upon with no provocation. We were simply defending ourselves, he retorted with derision. Lara responded. Her disbelief irritated Denzel more than it should have.
You should take greater care in the future. Hasmos will not accept any collateral damage to its property. Any further damages reported to us will be deducted from your salary.
It stepped a bit closer to him and lowered its voice.
How goes your search?
Nothing yet. Denzel stepped back a step. He wasn't about to tell this Lara of anything extra.
If you were to find any of these so-called artifacts, you are to consult with Lily Leisha on Gateway and describe it thoroughly. She has orders to gather any and all such items from your team. You, of course, will receive a 10,000 credit bonus for any item of worth.
How generous. Denzel's mouth was a thin-lipped line. The android stared at him, trying to determine if he was being flippant.
Do not stay too long. I have been told crews suffer rather odd consequences after being on station for extended periods. Hasmos will pay for your crew to have shore leave at Gateway every month. Any medical treatment necessary will be assumed as carelessness on your parts, and the costs will be deducted from your salaries. Understood?
Yes, ma'am. Denzel gave a mock salute. He wasn't normally this disrespectful to authorities, but something about Lara didn't sit right with him. The android scoffed and turned to walk over to a single-person transport shuttle. It climbed on board and began its flight checks. Denzel assumed the meeting was finished, and he turned to board the Acheron when someone behind him called out,
"Wait one moment."
Denzel turned and saw a stern-looking woman march up to him. Her uniform was immaculate, and her demeanor brooked no nonsense. She gave a disdainful glance at Lara before continuing.
"I am Commander Rachel Kilroy. I am currently in command of this blockade and lead the Troubleshooters Mercenary Company. You have heard of us?"
Denzel nodded.
"Good. Hasmos contracted us to perform this mission and further asked us to accommodate Robo-Captain there."
She obviously had no love for androids, but she didn't crack a smile at her own joke.
"We could hardly say no since they cut our checks."
Denzel gave a small smile in response. Perhaps this Kilroy allowed a tiny bit of nonsense. She cleared her throat.
"I am in need of some eyes and ears on the deep outside of my own troops. If your crew is interested, we could offer equipment, medical treatment, and other things you might need."
Denzel was a little puzzled. Why would she trust him, a stranger? "Okay," he started. She held up a hand to stop him.
"Before you say anything, know that you would need to earn my trust before you gain anything from us."
She outstretched her hand and held out a small transceiver.
"Place this somewhere out of sight in the employee recreation room on floor 1 of the station. It will allow me to monitor divers and other denizens of the deep who frequent that room for rest. If you could accomplish this, I will consider giving you other work. and the payments I've mentioned.
She left her hand extended as Denzel considered. He guessed it could not hurt to have some allies as powerful as the troubleshooters. He took the device. "I'll do that," he said simply. She only nodded and turned on her heel. She walked off without another word. Was everyone in this system completely off their rocker? End of scene. Chaos factor is going to be reduced by 1 down to 8. Things should start to settle down now while the crew is off of the deep. Anytime we leave the deep, we must perform a D100 bends check. For this roll, we want to get higher than our bends score. So unlike all of the other Mothership rolls, we want to get higher this time. Alright, first Ada. 63 versus a 32. She passes. Denzel. 54 versus 24. He passes. Ollie. 24 versus a 10. He passes. Good for you, Ollie. Therese. Six versus a 13. She failed. I was just laughing because she has the lowest score. I knew that she was going to fail it because she has the lowest. No, Ollie's got the lowest. He's got 10. She's got 13. Anyway, she failed. Let's see what she gets. Increased empathy for androids. Increased stress by 1 if you see an android die. Okay, so she's got the same thing that Ollie does. Both of them are going to continue to get stressed if we have to kill androids. Alright, for the next session, we're going to focus on the rest of the crew's activities while Denzel was on this jaunt. I really enjoyed the addition of some new NPCs, and I'm excited to see how the bends affect Ada in the picture that she found. A friend of mine from work, a co-worker, a friend, performed the voice of Rachel Kilroy. She did not want to be credited, but I want to give her credit regardless. So thank you so much for providing the voice of Rachel Kilroy. And I will see you guys next time. Bye. If you want to help support the show, consider leaving a like and a comment, as that really helps the algorithm. Consider sharing the link on your favorite social media.